Hello, creative friends. Today I'm joining you from beautiful Hornby Island. The sun is out, the tide is out. Time to paint. And who are we going to be painting today? None other than my own cat, Tiberius. Tiberius is a playful, snuggly kitty. Like most cats, he sleeps a lot during the day. But I learned recently that cats aren't exactly nocturnal. They're crepuscular. In other words, they're most active at dawn and dusk, which explains why Tiberius gets the zoomies just as I'm trying to go to sleep. Now, I got this great snapshot of Tiberius one night, but it's a little blurry. Maybe it's not something that I want to hang on my wall as is, but as a reference for a painting, it's perfect. Let's take a look at our materials. Today, we're going to be painting on wood. Now, as a surface, wood is not only harder than canvas, but it's also smoother. That can be fun when you want your paint to move around really easily on your surface. And it also helps with getting more detail into a fine space. To prep the surface, I'm going to use gesso. Gesso is a primer with a texture called tooth. And that's what helps the paint stick to stuff. Gesso comes in all sorts of colors, so you can get clear gesso, black gesso. In this case, I'm going to stick to white. Let's brush some of that on there. And if I leave this rough, we'll be able to see some of these brush marks in the final piece. And today, I think that would look pretty neat. So we're going to do that. Now that we've got something to paint on, what are we going to paint with? Well, I've got a pretty simple palette here. Just taped some paper down to my plastic undersheet on the deck. Apart from my white and black, I have my three primary colors. And when you're working with shades of brown, just about any red, yellow, and blue will do the trick. Today, my goal is to stay really loose. Instead of trying to paint a cat, or paint my cat, or paint Tiberius, what I'm doing is I'm really just looking at where are the lights and the darks, and what are the shapes. So you can see as I'm going along here, I'm painting the background shape. It kind of follows around that big dark shape over to the side and down the side of the canvas. And that's going to be part of Tiberius's head, but I'm trying to not let my brain know that. Instead, I'm thinking there's a big triangular shape. There's a small white shape. There's a light squarish area here or there. And as I'm doing that, it starts to look more and more like a cat. Well, isn't that interesting? There's no outline of a cat there, and yet something cat-like emerges. Now let's come in with a little bit of brown and start getting that even darker. The background shapes are one of the areas where I'm most confident in because there's not a lot of texture, there's not a lot distracting me. I know that's just a big brown shape, so I can come in with a big brush and just tidy that up. I notice that seems to come down a little further in the straight line, and so I'm just kind of chiseling away at it, almost like a sculptor. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, except on this side, the dark is Tiberius, and the background is light. Painting this way requires a lot of squinting. That's why you can see I'm holding my brush closer to the end, and I'm leaning really far back. So I got all the areas that I'm pretty sure are black in. Now I can start adding some color. Got a really rich brown above Tiberius's nose here. I'll work that through, and I want to go kind of all over my canvas with this one color. So how am I doing? It's looking cat-like. You can see there's way more contrast in mine than there is in the photo. So now it's time to come in and get some of those middle grays. And I'm going to do that with very little pigment on my brush so that it stays loose, so that I can still move things around. His eyes are looking pretty weird. And I'm just going to wipe my brush off and use it like an eraser. So I dip it in my medium, wipe it on my paper towel, and now I can pick paint back up off my board instead of painting over it. Now here's the fun part. Confident where my subject is, I can come in and get started on some background color. Watch how much his ear is going to pop after this, because I think it looks like it is the last white thing on the canvas. Yeah, that's looking great. So now that the big lights and darks are in, I can start refining with some detail. Get those little kitty nostrils in there. We're just going to work from this point from sketchy to realistic. I'm going to take out anything that doesn't look like it belongs. The overall painting isn't going to change that much. It's just going to get more. It's just going to kind of get more. With the black erased, those yellow eyes are really going to pop. Now, because of the somewhat lacking quality of my photo, I've been imagining Ty's colors here. And here's what my brain is shooting for. Not bad. I still need some more of those middle grays in there around his chin, though. I'm still keeping an eye on those values, even though I've mostly moved on to details. the more confident I get, the more pigment I use. I really wouldn't want to have to turn this corner back to white. Yeah. These light little wispies are just catching the light. And they help show where Tiberius's face ends, because otherwise it might blend into this background area here. Now, when I compare my painting to my reference now, I'm getting close. Let's turn this blur into fur. But stripes can be intimidating because their overall value is gray when you squint. But the gray is made up of all these high contrast lines. Let's take a closer look at stripes for a second. Check out how these big blocks change from gray looking to suddenly stripy. And by varying the thickness, they look darker or lighter. Cats kind of throw this effect at you a lot. So now, I've got to choose whether or not I'm going to add these lines in. And if so, where? Oh yeah, there's some yellow cat eyes. I like that. Okay, now these aren't flat yellow, so I'm going to be adding a bit of white for the highlighted areas and a bit more contrasty yellow for the darker areas. And yeah. Oh, those really pop. Nice. Now the moment that makes the eyes come alive. Just that little dot of light. And I think that's got him done. Let's go show Tiberius. So there's the final portrait for Tiberius the Traveling Cat for his adventures on Hornby Island. And even if he's not totally in love with the portrait himself, I don't mind. Cats aren't the best art critics. I think he's adorable. Oh, don't worry, Peaches. We'll get you next time. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Painting Pets with Zann and Tiberius. Now, it seems I've promised Peaches a portrait of herself, so I suspect that might be what I'll be working on in the near future. See you next time!